My name is Elise, and I never imagined I'd end up in a courtroom, let alone standing across from the woman who once screamed at me for packing the wrong juice box. Now she was the one trembling. Vanessa. Once the elegant, sharp-tongued mother I worked for. Now, a defendant in handcuffs, mascara smudged, begging for mercy. Please, she whispered through her tears, just let me see them. The judge's gavel echoed like thunder, and silence blanketed the courtroom. My heart pounded, but not from nerves. This wasn't fear. It was justice. Slow, messy, heartbreaking justice. The children, Ava and Eli, clung to me, their little fingers curling tightly around my coat sleeves. Ava's eyes searched mine, trying to read the room, trying to make sense of everything. She was only 7, but she'd seen more chaos than most adults. Eli, just 3, buried his face in my shoulder. Vanessa's sobs grew louder. I know I made mistakes, she pleaded. But they're my kids. You can't just. I turned to her. My voice was calm. Cold, maybe. But honest. You fired me, remember? Her face crumpled. But to truly understand that moment, to understand how we ended up here, you need to go back with me. Back to the first time I stepped into that perfect, hollow house. It had 7 bedrooms, 3 fireplaces, and 1 lonely soul in every room. Ava had looked at me with wide, guarded eyes the moment I arrived. Eli had clutched a stuffed bear so tight its head was lopsided. Vanessa greeted me with a manicured smile and handed me a binder. Schedule, rules, emergency contacts, she said. Oh, and don't get too close. Boundaries are important. I remember nodding, already knowing that in houses like these, boundaries often meant silence. Todd, her husband, was on his way to a work trip that lasted 8 days. I didn't know then, but that was the last time I'd see him in that house. The first night, I made grilled cheese and tomato soup for the kids. Ava sat at the table, quiet, while Eli bounced in his high chair, giggling at every movement I made. They never eat grilled cheese for me, Vanessa muttered as she passed through the kitchen in heels, already halfway out the door with a glass of wine in hand. Don't spoil them. That was the beginning. Days turned into weeks. I began to notice things, little things most people would miss. Ava flinched at loud noises. Eli would wake up crying, drenched in sweat, whispering sorry like it was a reflex. The house was always clean. Too clean. Like it was hiding something beneath the shine. I started a journal. Not because I suspected anything illegal, just because my gut said something wasn't right. Ava didn't act like a carefree 7-year-old. She folded her clothes meticulously, apologized too quickly, and always asked before touching food. One afternoon, I found her sitting in the closet with Eli, reading him a book with a flashlight. Why are you hiding? I asked gently. She looked at me, dead serious. It's safer in here when Mommy's mad. That sentence burned itself into my memory. I didn't sleep much that night. Still, I was just the nanny. That's what Vanessa reminded me of every time I tried to raise a concern. They're sensitive, she'd say. Or, you're not their therapist, Elise. Just give them their snack and take them outside. But I wasn't blind. And I wasn't heartless. Then came the night I'll never forget. It was late, maybe 11 p.m. I'd just finished cleaning up the kitchen when I heard a crash. Glass shattering. Then silence. I rushed upstairs. The hallway light flickered as I made my way to Ava's room. The door was ajar. Inside, I found Ava on the floor, clutching her elbow, a vase shattered beside her. Eli was crying in the corner. Vanessa stood over them, breath unsteady, wine glass in hand. I told you, she slurred, to stay in your room. Vanessa, I said carefully, stepping in. Let me take them. She turned to me, eyes wild. You don't tell me what to do in my house. I didn't argue. I just scooped Ava up, wrapped a blanket around Eli, and walked them to the guest room, locking the door behind us. The next morning, Vanessa acted like nothing happened. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just, could you make them pancakes? I have a brunch at the club. That's when I called a friend I had who worked in social services. I didn't know if it was enough to report yet, but I had to say something. I just couldn't ignore it. Still, I stayed. Not for Vanessa. For the kids. They began to smile more. Ava laughed one day when I let her stir cake batter. Eli started calling me Lissy. He wouldn't nap unless I was beside him, humming lullabies. Then one morning, Vanessa snapped. She had a fight with Todd over the phone. I heard the words custody and rehab. When she hung up, she marched into the kitchen. I don't need a babysitter who thinks she's better than me, she spat. Pack your things. You're done here. And just like that, I was gone. I didn't even get to say goodbye. But what Vanessa didn't know was that I'd left behind more than love. I'd left behind evidence. Photos. Notes. Incident reports. Copies of my journal entries, all sent to Child Protective Services. I didn't do it out of revenge. I did it because I knew something worse was coming. And it did. Weeks later, the phone rang. Elise, the voice on the other end said. The children were found alone. She's in jail. Can you come? My hand shook as I grabbed my keys. Ava and Eli needed me. And this time, I wasn't just the nanny. I was their only hope. The first thing Ava said to me at the shelter wasn't hello. It was, did mommy say you can come? Her voice was small. Defensive. Afraid. She sat next to her brother on a stiff plastic couch, holding a doll with missing hair. Eli's cheeks were stained with dried tears, his nose running, his thumb tucked tightly in his mouth. I knelt in front of them, blinking back my own tears. No, sweetheart, I whispered. But I came anyway. Because I missed you. Ava looked at me for a long moment before lunging forward and wrapping her thin arms around my neck. Her body shook as she cried into my shoulder. Eli followed seconds later, crawling onto my lap like a scared puppy looking for warmth. They didn't need words. They needed safety. I had been preparing for this moment for weeks, ever since Vanessa fired me. Deep down, I knew something like this would happen. Maybe not this soon, maybe not this badly, but her spiral was fast and violent, and the kids were always caught in the undertow. After reporting what I'd witnessed, I kept in contact with the caseworker, Carla, a stern woman with tired eyes but a warm heart. She called me when the children were found alone in the house, Ava locked in a closet with Eli, who hadn't eaten in 2 days. The neighbor had called the police after hearing crying through the walls for hours. Vanessa was arrested later that night for endangering minors and public intoxication. I should have stayed, I said softly, running my hand through Ava's tangled hair. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, she murmured. Mommy says it's because Daddy left. I didn't know how to answer that. So I didn't. I just held them tighter. Later that day, Carla took me aside. We're placing them in emergency foster care for now, she said, watching me carefully. Unless someone they know can take them. Someone stable. I want to be that person, I said without hesitation. You'll have to go through the process, background checks, home inspections, hearings. Then let's start now. Carla's expression softened. You really love them, don't you? I never stopped. The next few days were a blur. Paperwork. Interviews. Home visits. I turned my tiny one-bedroom into a haven, moved my bed to the living room and gave the kids my room. Bought bunk beds, nightlights, stuffed animals. Anything that would make them feel safe. But safety isn't just about walls and locks. It's about consistency. And healing. Ava wet the bed the first 3 nights. She apologized every time. Eli screamed during thunderstorms, covering his ears and hiding under tables. I stayed up with them, singing songs, telling silly stories, and whispering, "You're safe. I'm here." And slowly, they started to believe me. One night, while brushing Ava's hair, I noticed faint marks on her upper arm. "What happened here?" I asked gently. She shrugged. "I fell." The words came too quickly. Too rehearsed. "Ava," I said softly, kneeling in front of her. "You don't have to protect anyone anymore." She looked away, blinking fast. "She gets mad when we talk." "I know. But I'm not mad. And I promise, no one's going to hurt you here." That night, she asked if she could sleep with the door open. Eli asked if the police were still outside. They didn't need toys or candy. They needed to unlearn fear. The next week, the court scheduled a temporary custody hearing. Vanessa's attorney tried to block it, claiming I was a disgruntled employee with no legal rights. But the judge allowed me to speak. "I lived in that house for nearly a year," I told the court, my voice steady but full of fire. "I saw what these kids went through. I've comforted them through bruises no one asked about. I've held them when their mother left them crying. I filed the reports. I made the calls. I didn't do it to hurt anyone, I did it to protect Ava and Eli. And I'll keep doing that. Every single day." Vanessa, in handcuffs, stared at me with eyes that had lost all their shine. For a moment, I saw the woman she used to be, put together, powerful, terrifying. Now, she just looked hollow. After the hearing, Carla pulled me aside again. "The court is leaning in your favor. But she's still their biological mother. We have to give her a chance to petition." "She had 100 chances," I said bitterly. "And the only thing she did consistently was fail them." I didn't want to hate her. Truly, I didn't. But every time I saw Ava shrink at a raised voice, or Eli jump at sudden movement, I hated her a little more. Not because she was sick. Not because she needed help. But because she refused to get it. And she dragged her kids down with her. One evening, after dinner, Ava drew a picture of our tiny apartment. In the drawing, I was holding her and Eli's hands. There was a big yellow sun above us and a heart drawn in the corner. "You're our safe place," she said. I cried in the kitchen after she went to bed. They were healing. And I would burn the world down before I let anyone hurt them again. The courtroom was colder than I remembered. I stood at the front, next to my lawyer, hands clasped tight, as Vanessa was brought in wearing a beige prison-issued sweater and a look of defiance thinly veiling desperation. Her eyes darted to the bench, then to the two small figures seated behind me, Ava and Eli. A flicker of emotion crossed her face, but it vanished the moment I met her gaze. The hearing was to determine long-term custody. Vanessa had petitioned to get her children back. Rehab. Counseling. Community service. She had done all the surface work. On paper, she was trying. But Ava still had nightmares. Eli still asked if he had to go back to the yelling house. She hadn't earned them back. She hadn't even acknowledged what she'd done. And now she was trying to reverse it all with court-appointed charm. I sat down with Ava and Eli that morning, dressed them gently, braided Ava's hair like she liked it. I told them, "We're going to see Mommy today." Ava had frozen. "Do we have to?" "No, sweetheart," I said. "But the judge might want to hear from you." "Only if you want." She nodded. Brave. So much braver than any child should have to be. Eli clung to my leg the entire ride there. Now, inside the courtroom, Vanessa's attorney stood and began. "My client has completed every requirement set forth by this court. She is clean, stable, and remorseful. She respectfully requests reunification with her children." Then she stood. "Vanessa. Chin up. Voice rehearsed." "I know I've made mistakes," she said, wiping a tear that hadn't fully formed. "But I love my kids. I miss them. I've done everything I was told to do. I deserve another chance. Then she looked at me. And with all due respect to Miss Elise, she's just the nanny. The words echoed like a gunshot. Ava stiffened behind me. I felt heat rise in my chest, but I stayed quiet. For now. The judge turned to me. Ms. Daniels, would you like to respond? I rose slowly, smoothing the fabric of my dress with shaky hands. With all due respect, Your Honor, I said, eyes still fixed on Vanessa. I may have been the nanny, but I was also the one holding Ava when she had her first panic attack. I was the one who took Eli to the hospital when he had a fever of 104, because no one else noticed he was burning up. I turned to the judge. She says I'm just the nanny. But where was she when Eli cried through the night? Where was she when Ava begged to not be locked in the closet again? Where was she when they were starving and scared and hiding from the only person who was supposed to protect them? Vanessa opened her mouth to object, but I didn't stop. I'm not here because I want to be their mother by default. I'm here because I chose them. Every single day. When she didn't. There was silence. Even the bailiff looked down at his feet. The judge leaned forward. We would like to speak with Ava privately. My heart twisted. Carla took her hand, led her gently into chambers. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Vanessa fidgeted in her seat. When Ava returned, her eyes were dry. She walked straight to me and held my hand. I knelt. What did you say, baby? I whispered. She looked me in the eyes. I told them where home is. That night, I sat on the floor of our apartment as the kids colored beside me. My lawyer called. The judge is drafting the ruling. You're getting full custody, Elise. Permanently. I let the phone drop from my hand. For a long time, I just stared at them, Ava humming quietly, Eli trying to draw a dinosaur with 3 heads. I wasn't just the nanny. I was their safe place. Their quiet in the storm. Their constant. And she, Vanessa, was the one who let it all slip through her manicured fingers. She thought love was something you were owed. I knew better. Love was something you earned. The custody papers arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning, thick, official, and final. I signed them with shaking hands, not because I was uncertain, but because I was overwhelmed. After everything, after the threats, the silence, the courtrooms, and the tears, I was no longer just the nanny. I was their legal guardian. Their mother in every way that mattered. I called Ava and Eli into the living room. Come sit with me, I said, pulling them into my lap. We're a forever family now. Eli looked confused. Ava blinked. Forever? I nodded. Forever. They didn't cheer. They didn't clap. They just leaned into me, one on each side, and let out the kind of breath only children who've held it too long can release. But the calm didn't last long. That afternoon, Vanessa called. Her voice was frantic. Elise, please, I need to talk to them. Just for a minute. You lost that right, I said, keeping my tone even. The court gave me full custody. I know, but, Elise, you don't understand. I need them. I'm better now. I swear. I paused. You called me just the nanny in front of a judge. And now you want me to hand them back? Look, I was scared, okay? I thought I was going to lose everything. You did, I said simply. But not because of me. You lost them because you never chose them first. Silence. Then a broken whisper, can I see them? Just once. I should have said no. But some part of me remembered the Vanessa who used to laugh with Ava in the garden. Who used to sing lullabies, before the bottles replaced bedtime stories. We'll meet in a public place, I said. 15 minutes. That's all. We arranged to meet at a park the next day. I didn't tell the kids until that morning. Ava's reaction was guarded. Will she yell? No, I promised. Not today. Eli stayed quiet, clutching his toy truck. When we arrived, Vanessa was already there, sitting on a bench in a coat too thin for the chill, her hair tucked under a beanie, her eyes swollen. She stood when she saw us. Ava. Eli. They walked to her slowly. Ava kept her distance. Eli reached out only after she knelt. I'm so sorry, Vanessa choked out. I missed you both so much. I'm getting better. I swear. Ava tilted her head. Then why did you lock us in the closet? Vanessa blinked hard. I wasn't myself. I didn't mean to. But you did it, Ava said. Even if you didn't mean to. There was no malice in her voice. Just clarity. Vanessa's lip trembled. I was so angry, so tired. And I didn't know how to ask for help. You had help, I said gently from behind her. You just pushed it away. She turned to me, her eyes pleading. Can you give me another chance? I looked at her, really looked. She was pale. Thinner. But not hollow. Not quite. I'm not the one you need to ask, I said. They are. Vanessa looked back at Ava and Eli. Ava took Eli's hand. We don't hate you, she said. But we don't want to live with you. And that was that. 15 minutes passed. Vanessa hugged them goodbye, her hands shaking, and left without another word. As we walked back to the car, Ava looked up at me. Do we still have to see her? No, I said softly. Not unless you want to. She nodded, satisfied. That night, I found a drawing tucked into my purse. Ava had drawn our apartment again, but this time, there were no shadows in the corners. No tears. Just the three of us. Smiling. In the light. Weeks passed. Then months. Our little home felt warmer with each passing day, messy mornings with cereal on the floor, bedtime stories read twice, sometimes 3 times, because Eli couldn't sleep unless I did the voices. We were a rhythm now. A family. I started noticing the small things. Ava no longer checked the locks at night. Eli stopped hiding snacks in his pillowcase. One morning while packing lunches, Ava looked up and said, "You make the best peanut butter sandwiches, Mom." I froze. Not because she called me that. But because it felt natural. Like she'd always known. Then came the knock at the door. It was Vanessa. Her eyes were clearer this time. Her hands didn't shake. But there was a quiet storm in her voice. I've been clean for 9 months. I have a job. An apartment. I've been showing up to group. I didn't speak. I want to petition to be in their lives again, she said. Not custody, just something. You already tried that in court, I said gently. The judge was clear. I know. I know. But I'm their mother. I stared at her for a long moment. And then I said it. The words that had sat in my chest for nearly 2 years. You fired me. Remember? She flinched. You said I was just the nanny. That I was stepping over boundaries. That I didn't belong. She opened her mouth. Closed it again. I stayed when you left. I cleaned up your messes. I held them through storms you created. Her lip trembled. Elise. No, I said, firm but quiet. You walked out. And I stepped in. You don't just get to come back now because it's convenient. She wiped her eyes. Please. Just ask them. I will, I said. But you have to prepare yourself. Because love isn't something you're owed. It's something you earn. I asked Ava that night. Her answer was instant. I don't want her to come back yet. Maybe when I'm older. Eli didn't even look up from his toy. No. And I respected that. A few days later, I mailed Vanessa a letter. I told her the door wasn't locked, but the handle was on our side now. She didn't respond. Life kept moving. Ava started piano lessons. Eli learned to ride a bike without training wheels. And me? I stood in the kitchen one night, dishes in the sink, laughter spilling from the living room, and realized something. Maybe I had started as just the nanny. But now? I was the safe place they ran to. The one who stayed when it got hard. The person they called mom. Vanessa had begged me for custody. But I'd already given them something more powerful than a court order. I gave them home. So here's what I still wonder sometimes. What do you do when the woman who gave birth to them wants back the life you built from the pieces she left behind?